look, I'm still a registered independent. I'm willing to vote for JFK, cut taxes. I like to point that out. I'm willing to vote for anybody who comes up with the most solid economic plan, the most solid, plan for protecting our country. I hate to be motivated entirely by politics or by party. I feel like something like economics and military protection should be universal, but I'll leave that aside. I just think that there has to be a place where people can go where they can get the other side. So if Google's the main search engine, what becomes the counter to that? Because look, we know these biases. So where can people go to get something different? Do conservatives need to build that as a separate thing, like a separate pipeline? I spoke with somebody recently who had a very interesting idea, even almost establishing like a different economy. It was wild. They actually used examples like post-Civil War America and the challenges that Black Americans had integrating into the rest of the economy. And so they said, to heck with it, we're building our own. And then Israel and the challenges Israel had initially. And they said, you know what, we can do this ourselves. And they helped each other. And they just were able to really become successful and phenomenal in their own right. And so some people have said maybe there needs to be an infrastructure that assists conservatives in a similar way. Could we do that on a tech front?
Yeah, I think people are trying. You look at Martin Avila with RightForge. He's trying to create a cloud infrastructure because we know when Parler was kicked off of Apple and Google, their app stores, yeah, that mattered a lot. But when it came to Amazon Web Services actually kicking Parler off, that was the biggest problem. We needed a cloud hosting service, or at least somebody neutral needed a cloud hosting service that wasn't going to say, oh, yeah, people are screaming for Parler's head, so let's give it to them, sort of unjustifiably, as it turns out, given the research coming out after 2021. So I absolutely think that we have to, embrace the entirety of the digital stack and build accordingly, which means digital platforms. It means digital services like email delivery services, like payment processors that are online, like frankly, even maybe internet service providers need to start rethinking things as well. Of course, the cloud hosting service infrastructure needs to be as neutral as possible. So yes, I think we have to build. The biggest thing that we're seeing, there's a big cryptocurrency, Bitcoin debate when it comes to central digital currencies, because when you consolidate and concentrate power and centralize it in a newly digitized world, then you can basically control what all of the minions can do. So I think
and China's trying to do it, right? They have their digital yuan and they can, it's amazing because you can, when you want to help a specific group or specific economy, you can just flood them with digital yuan. You know exactly where they're spending money. That whole social credit score comes in on steroids because suddenly the government has the ability to, get in there and monitor your bank account. And people say, okay, like this is science fiction. And I'm like, Kara, think about what Janet Yellen was saying. They wanted to be able to look at your bank account if you had so much as $600 in there. I'm like, you guys are not going after the billionaires here. If you've had $600 in transactions, there was the need for the government, for the IRS to be able to go in and look at your bank account. I'm sorry, but it could happen.
Oh, it's here. It's here. Look at the trucker convoy in Canada. Justin Trudeau turned off their ability to withdraw money because it was digitized. So yeah, I don't think that America is immune from that kind of threat whatsoever, especially when you have Biden and his Office of Science and Technology Policy saying, hey, centralized, digital bank currencies, here are some things to think about, hint, hint kind of thing. So I think it's very worrisome that our government tends to, or appears to be moving in that direction. And I think we have to do everything we can to stop it. And that includes building, that includes having digital services of our own.
So is Elon Musk, do you think, helpful to the cause in that sense with Twitter?
I do, but I don't think that we can depend on another white knight billionaire. And I don't think we should have to either. So I think he's a singular man. He met a singular moment. And I don't think that's a repeatable strategy necessarily. I would love
not everybody has nearly $50 billion to spend, for which he probably overspent by some $35 billion. I hear you. And so, it gets back to a lot of different things, right? In terms of our youth and making sure. You said you grew up red, white, and blue. I did too. And by the way, yeah. I grew up in a place where you could have very different political opinions. We mattered once every 4 years there in little old New Hampshire because we hosted the first in the nation primary. But it was very, like, everybody had bumper stickers on their car for whatever candidate. Everybody had different views. And it was like, the joke was, one farmer says to another, well, who are you going to vote for? And the other farmer says, well, I don't know. I've only met each of the candidates 3 times. I mean, they were, they're into it. But you could have normal discussion and normal discord, right? And still be best friends with someone. And so we've totally lost that. And I just think it has to change. And so culturally, whatever we can do with our youth to make them more accepting, to make them more compassionate and more empathetic to different views is critical. So knowing all that we just heard from you, let's now layer in this even more complicated issue, which is just the massive rate at which technology is improving almost in a scary way. Like, there are people that are afraid of robots. Like, I've known some. In fact, one of my kids, she would watch the Jetsons and be kind of freaked out by Rosie, the robot. And I look back on it, I'm like, you know what? She was onto something. Because when you think about what computers actually can do going forward and how they can mimic people, and it's wild. You've told me off air some of the things that AI might be able to do, especially when combined with all the data they've been gathering on TikTok or Facebook or anywhere else. Walk us through your concerns.
Yeah, so, traditionally, a lot of AI systems, we call them very narrow systems, very brittle systems. So they can conduct tasks or do what they're programmed to do. So nothing really to be afraid of. These learning systems, in particular, an application of AI, machine learning, this is where the machines tend to learn from the data and they develop solutions to problems. And that's when I think everybody's kind of getting a little nervous. So we know that AI, people use AI on their phones. There are certain things that are very, very, again, very narrow, very simple, and they're useful. It helps sort of not even supercharge, but just enhance your ability to conduct everyday tasks. Like, AI can analyze data, it can find patterns, it can predict trends, it can automate certain tasks. But now it looks like these, what everyone is calling AGI, artificial general intelligence. So these general systems, some people say it's not a thing, that's never going to happen. Others say it's 5-10 years down the road. This is where these systems, AI, in fact, apply their expertise more broadly. So people are very concerned about, frankly, a human being out of the loop. We always say humans must be in the loop. So a human must factor in the decision making of these machines. It's when human beings are, hands are off the wheel and these machines are, say, fully autonomous in a military application sense, and making their own decisions, that's problematic. There are a lot of, especially military and defense applications of AI that we're already seeing that I frankly worked with in the field, like semi-autonomous weapons or drones. I work with Predators, I work with Reapers, MQ-1s, MQ-9s. So, these things have been in the field for a very long time, but it's the development of more sophisticated systems that apply their expertise more generally. That's the fear. A good example that my old boss, he would use is, human beings can bend down to tie their shoe and look over and grab an apple and then jump in the car and operate the car. Machines haven't been able to do that. That's very flexible and sophisticated intelligence. Machines are basically much more narrow, with their expertise confined to a single domain. They can say, given a series of images, that's a cat, that's a rat, that's a dog, kind of thing. And it's when they start to gain that expertise that they can apply to doing things like tying a shoe, grabbing an apple, and then operating a vehicle, that's when it becomes problematic. We're not there yet, but we are heading in that direction, I think a lot of AI researchers would say.